Welcome to this special edition of Behind the Caution Tape. I am your host, CrashLit, and today I am honored to be joined by the one and only, the legendary Cheryl Miller, a two-time national champion at USC, three-time Naismith Player of the Year, 1984 gold medalist, Hall of Famer, and also at one point in high school scored over 100 points in a single game. So just an impressive resume. Cheryl, it is an honor, as I said, to have you on. Make
Crash,
sure.
you're the only one that could get me on in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, and I also forgot to mention you are easily, and it's not even close, the coolest professor I've ever had at USC.
I appreciate that. I'm still, when people say Professor Miller, I'm looking around to see who they're talking to. So this is still new to me.
Yeah, one other thing I do want to mention is does happen to be the 31st episode ever of Behind the Caution Tape, and Cheryl Miller's number,
Absolutely.
retired in Galen, is number 31. So I think this, makes it even more special.
You know
And
what?
I
There's a reason why I love you, young man. Got
thank
mad
you.
love for you.
Thank you. And then obviously, Cheryl, as you can see, if you're watching the video version of this, you can see she's in some legendary company. The USC version of Mount Rushmore with all the greats who played with her. So
They
definitely we'll talk
were
about.
teammates, obviously Pam and Paula McGee, Cynthia Cooper. I had the pleasure of coaching Lisa Leslie and Tina Thompson. So legends, like you said.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's get right into it. So I want to kind of talk to you about kind of what got you just into basketball and like how old were you when that happened?
How was your, typical tomboy growing up? I had two older brothers, Reggie's a year younger, and a baby sister, and it was just watching my big brothers play against their friends on in our front yard, and it just grew from there.
Gotcha. And then what made you stay with it just growing up, even as, maybe things got tough, you were frustrated with how like maybe you were playing, whether it was just a game of pickup or whether it was an more organized type of play.
Well, there's a couple tiers. There was something about playing basketball that came easy. I don't know why. I couldn't explain it to you. If even he gave me a whole day to try to, but it just felt natural being on the basketball court. And it was even more natural for me to play against the guys because at the time I thought I was the only girl at 9 or 10 years old that played basketball in the world. It really wasn't until I got to high school. Oh, actually, I got to backtrack a little bit. In grade school, in seventh and eighth grade, I tried to try out for the boys' team. And the coach said he thought it was a joke. And I said, no, I'll play your son, who was the star player at the team, one on one. Well, I beat him 21-1, and the coach still wouldn't let me play. So that I thought was going to be a turning point in my young, brief basketball career, but it turned out to be a blessing because I found out that I tried out with the girls' basketball team, which I thought was a demotion crash, but it turned out there were a lot of girls that love to play basketball.
Absolutely. I'll ask you more about that in a sec, but kind of how would you say just coming from, just a very athletic family, like helped shape you into the player that you'd become?
Well, like I said, I had two older brothers. The best athlete was my oldest brother, Saul Jr., but he turned out to be the best musician in our family. My brother Daryl was a catcher for the California Angels. Of course, everybody knows Reggie. Played with the Indiana Pacers, UCLA Bruins, celebrity and star, and a younger sister who played volleyball at Cal State Fullerton. So every sport it was in play, whether it was basketball, football, baseball, no soccer, but everything else.
Gotcha. And then I kind of want to talk to you about kind of like about your bit of your college recruiting process and just what led you initially commit to UCLA. And like I know you're a year older than Reggie, but
Right.
I'm assuming he was going through that recruiting process roughly maybe a year behind, but
Yeah.
going through it, did kind of his, decision to go to UCLA influence your decision at all?
Not at all. Not at all. And I don't think and I'm glad you asked me that question, Crash, because a lot of people don't realize when I was being recruited, it wasn't how players are recruited now where the universities would pay for you to come out and your recruiting visits. All that came out of your family's pocket. And if you came from, we were considered middle class, but I was recruited over 200 schools. So obviously, I couldn't fit the bill to travel where I wanted to. I wanted to to take a visit to Louisiana Tech, to Tennessee, to Old Dominion, to a lot of schools on the East Coast, but financially we couldn't afford it. So obviously I had to look closer to home. And the main schools at the time was UCLA, there was Long Beach State, and that was pretty much it for me. And then, the rest is history with Linda Sharp and the McGee twins. There was no way I was passing on this opportunity.
Fair enough. I was just wanting to ask you about the about if Reggie had any influence on your decision because I feel like sometimes
I no, I
sometimes siblings want to go to the same schools. I mean, my
no,
brothers
well,
had
see, and that's the wonderful thing about Reggie and I being a year older and watching Reggie and I mean, Reggie was in my shadow the majority of his whole life, so he had the opportunity to go to USC, but I said no. I talked him out of it. I said, go to UCLA. I mean, traditionally, SC is what? A football school. That's what they
absolutely.
are. That's what we are, correct? And UCLA, John Wooden and, all the great basketball players that they've had at that school. So it was a no-brainer for me to kind of nudge Reggie gently to be a Bruin.
Fair enough. And I've learned just not to blame anyone for doing what they think is best for them. So I can kind of respect you deep down for it,
Yeah,
even
oh,
though,
absolutely. Look, I mean, it was time for him, and I knew he was going to be a heck of a ball player. And the last thing he needed to do was, not only get out of my shadow, but, basically form his own journey and have his own path.
gotcha. And then obviously you talked about kind of the McGee twins, and it was a thing that was brought up in the Women of Troy documentary that they really visited you and put the hard sell on you to become a Trojan. So can you talk about that and what made you,
Hey,
switch to
there, there's crash, there's a hard sell, and there's being strong armed. And I was strong armed, buddy. I was strong armed. But absolutely. And look, Pam and Paula, it made sense. I had watched them growing up and playing. I never got the chance to play against them in AAU, but I watched them play when they were in Flint, Michigan. And to see how dynamic they were, um, I knew I wanted to go there, but it was still, I wasn't sure. I love Coach Sharp. I love the school. I love the fact that I was an hour away, so I could always get back home to Riverside to see mom and dad. Um, but once they sat down and said, look, plain and simple, you can play 2 years against us or 2 years with us and win a national championship. And I was like, hey, where do I sign? It was a no-brainer after that.
Yeah, I was really curious about how they kind of sold because obviously, I mean, it was definitely interesting hearing their take, how they sold you on it, and then how your side of it too, obviously.
Oh,
So,
and the thing is, back in the day, the rules were so tight of what you couldn't do. And the twins said that night, and Coach Sharp was there in the living room. We're all talking, and they said, "Hey, Coach, we got this." And she goes, "No, ladies, we have to leave because they can't stay in your house overnight." And my dad's like, "No, they're family. They can stay here." So they spent the night. So there was more coercion going on. So after they got up, they had a hot breakfast and left. I was signed, sealed, and delivered to be a Trojan.
gotcha. And then obviously, I remember another thing that really struck me, and kind of going back to the theme of, I guess, 31. I guess it might just be maybe a recurring theme throughout this episode is it's always significant to you. So what's significant about it? And like you seemed really bent on wearing it when you got to USC.
Well, it started with my brother Daryl. He wore 31, and we just that number stuck for a lot of. Well, that was one of the main reasons. The other was my birthday is January 3rd. It's January 3rd, the day. January the first of the month. So back in the day, I thought that was all kismic and that was a sign and everything else. And I wanted to follow in one of my big brother's footsteps and he passed it down the line.
So kind of the 31-7, another thing that's kind of just, I guess, in some ways brought you and your kind of your whole family together in that regard.
Absolutely. We've all worn the number 31.
Gotcha. Yeah. I always love hearing when there's a certain, like significance or story behind an entire family wearing the same number. I've talked to a couple other athletes who've had this
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it's crazy how it turned out, but that was a number worth fighting for.
Fair enough. And then obviously you got to USC. How did you find yourself fitting in with your new teammates and the coaching staff?
Um, from a personality standpoint, Crash, we were all very different. And I probably got the most ribbing, even though I wasn't obviously the only black female on the team. You know, you had Cynthia Cooper from Watts, Rhonda Wyndham, same year I was freshman incoming, from the Bronx, New York, and then I had Cheryl Miller, Riverside, which was considered Mayberry. So it wasn't like one of those hard cities growing up in. So I was a country mouse, considered to everybody else. But I'll tell you one thing that separated Coach Sharp from a lot of the coaches, and one of the main reasons why I think all of us played so well together and played for and signed because of her. She allowed us to be us. It wasn't back in the day, you had the Bobby nights where the mentality was you got to break the player down to build them up, and we all have to be on it. And that wasn't the case for Coach Sharp at all. She's like, as long as you were on time, you're respectful, and you gave it 100%, you do what you need to do.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess I can kind of see that in you even now today. I guess kind of this, that her just letting you kind of just
And
be
I'm the
you.
calm one. I'm the calm one out of all of my teammates. Well, they may not say that, but I know I'm the calm one considering out of all the players, all my teammates. Yeah, I was the most level-headed one.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then I will kind of want to talk to you about obviously your first 2 years at USC, you got to be part
Yeah,
of national championship teams. What
yeah.
was that experience just like getting, get to go all the way and then, just do really well and then just, what just made it so special? And then do you have like one that was more special than the other?
It's it's hard to pinpoint, but I can now I can now say I appreciate the journey. And it wasn't easy. Um, we didn't always get along. We fought like family members, like sisters. Um, we disagreed just about on everything, but there was something magical that happened once we stepped on the floor. Once we stepped on the floor, it was on. It didn't matter who we were competing with. It didn't matter what was going on yesterday or today, or if there was any beef between whomever, Cooper or myself and the twins or Rhonda or any of my teammates. If we had a beef, it was squashed the minute we stepped on the floor. And we had that common goal that we knew we had a shot at winning this. And the only thing that was going to stop us would be us. And we just couldn't afford to let that happen. So I appreciate the journey and the evolution of us growing up throughout the journey.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then, so, and I guess, do you have like a title that was more special? I know I kind of like asked you, but I'm just kind of curious if
You know
there's one.
what, Crash, to be honest, they're both special, but you always remember your first. Um, and I remember at halftime, we were getting our butts handed to us by Louisiana Tech, and it wasn't pretty. And everything that could go wrong went wrong in that first half. We couldn't tie our shoes, we couldn't dribble the ball, and our passes were a day late, and our shots were $1 short. We were so out of sync because they had experience, they had been there. But coach walked into the locker room, made that one adjustment, we're going to press. We were all kind of looking around at each other and went right out and executed. And next thing it's coming down the wire. The greatest moment I had after the game was grabbing the ball out of the net and kicking it and jumping up and having no idea who was going to catch me. And it was one of my freshman teammates who very rarely ever played, Melissa Ward. And it was fitting because just experiencing that in real time and going back through the Women of Troy and watching the movie and the documentary um, has been special. A lot of fond memories,
Mhm.
but that one stands out.
Absolutely, I can imagine. And then I'm also curious to hear about your experience, representing Team USA in the 1984 Olympics, which were happening, in LA. So, what were some of your favorite moments of that? And what was it like to, win the gold?
Well, it's kind of bittersweet because the two most dynamic post players was Pam and Paula McGee, and how you separate them and keep them off that Olympic team. I'm still scratching my head on, and I'm still not happy with the late great Pat Summitt and her wisdom and leaving her off the team. But with that being said, to share that with Pam, to win an Olympic gold medal in my backyard, something that I had dreamed about since I was 12 or 13, watching one of my childhood heroes, Ann Myers, win the Olympic medal, silver medal in 76 and giving me that goal that, oh man, that's really attainable. That's possible. That's what I want to do. I want to put myself in that position where I can do it. And to have my family, my mom and dad and Reggie, be at the Forum playing on the same court as the Lakers Showtime. Are you kidding me? Um, was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then how did it, obviously going back to, your college years, how did it feel to be named, the player of the year just 3 times while in college? Like that is just impressive. Like it's just like I'm so impressed, Cheryl.
Crash, it's nothing that it's funny. I watch these players today, and I can understand there's so much more out there, more than just winning. There's NIL deals um and tons of money, endorsements, all these things that they, the upper tier have these wonderful opportunities. But for me, it was never about breaking scoring titles. It was about winning championships, and it was about not only trying to achieve that, but it wasn't about the individual accolades. They came, and I'm definitely appreciative, but that was never the goal. And to achieve that with the great teammates and the coaches that and assistant coaches that I had along the way, that's what makes it special.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you always were, I can really respect how you were, always looking, I guess, more from like kind of like what's best for the team. And if I guess
Yeah,
if I'm reading this right, you're kind of more sought as if I get, individual awards along the way, like that's great, but you're more focused on the trophy at the end of the road.
that's it because it's a team effort. Now, look, if I'm playing tennis or it's golf and it's a individual sport, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, I deserve this. Yeah, yeah. But in basketball, it's a team sport. I couldn't have accomplished all that I did by myself. And I'm old enough and wise enough to realize that and understand that with great appreciation.
Gotcha. And then I know you said you kind of were more focused on the team, but I do want to ask you about a couple more of individual accomplishments. So what was it like to, become the first ever USC basketball player to have their jersey number retired?
That that caught me by surprise because I didn't think they would do it. I mean, that was never something that I, dreamed about or um but when it happened, I was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty impressive." That was kind of a moment where I'm like, "Oh wow, Cheryl, that's yeah, you did something pretty special there." So,
Well, just watching the Women of Troy documentary, you definitely did that. I will attest to that. And then I do also want to ask about what was like going through your mind, when you were inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
nerve-wracking, absolutely nerve-wracking. Um, Again, that's something that I never dreamed would happen because when I think of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, I'm thinking about Oscar Robinson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, um, shoot, all the great greats, Dr. J, all the ones that have really done something significant for the game of basketball. And I always view that, yeah, I accomplished some things, but to reach that type of stature and to be I was happy just the fact that I was being considered. First time ballot, and I was like, oh, because I wasn't aware that you could be a first time and ballot inductee, or you just until your number is called, or if you're ever called. Um, but to be inducted on the first time was yeah, it was significant. And again, now that my parents have passed away, to share that moment with them and more or less just to be able to hug and kiss them and thank them for all the little things that we take to, that I took for granted being a daughter. Um, it's been, I think looking back, I always wanted them there as a big thank you. And then I couldn't have done this by myself. For all the times that they took me to the ER to have my ankle looked at, x-rayed, um, casted, all the doctor's appointments, all the trips AAUs financially, bankrolling me, and when things were really tight, um, they were the ones that bared the cross for me. And yeah, my all the gravy is what they deserved.
So in some ways, I guess you've kind of just having them there with you, kind of just when you got these, just having to, have them there with you
Yeah,
when you earned them is like kind of what made it more special for you.
it did. It was like I said, it was my tribute of love and of their sacrifice. Even being, sometimes not the greatest daughter, and not being appreciative of the sacrifices, and sometimes not even knowing and being knowledgeable of the various sacrifices that they made for all my siblings, not only just myself, but it was thank you, mom and dad.
And then obviously your career did come to an unfortunate end due to injury. And but what did you learn about yourself just through through that adversity that you faced?
Oh, we don't have enough time for that. But I am still learning about myself. I found out the good way and the hard way, who your friends are. I found out what's value. What is the word value, and what is your value? Who do you say you are? Learning how to be comfortable in my skin. Um, Learning and finding the simple word that was so elusive for many, many years, no. Finding my no. And finding out that depending on wherever my life or my journey takes me, that isn't who I necessarily am. I'm Cheryl Miller. I play basketball. I'm Cheryl Miller. I broadcast. I'm Cheryl Miller. And yeah, I'm a nutty professor now. So all these various hats that I've been so wonderfully blessed with, I've tried to make sure that I anchor and understand who I am, my core, my authentic me.
You also, I remember, talked about kind of recently you were able to, come to terms, come just be at peace with kind of where your life and journey is. So
Mhm.
kind of how, I mean, how did kind of you did how do you kind of come to that, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
You know, live, live. Um, Give yourself grace. And when I mean grace, um, I'm learning it's really easy for me if Crash, you and I have a beef and let's say you hurt my feelings. I'm really, really smart enough and quick enough to forgive you. Yeah, I forgive you, man. Let's squash that. We good. We good. But what's been a long process and journey, and I'm getting better at that, is forgiving myself, learning how to forgive myself. Um, and that's probably been the biggest gift I've given myself very recently. And it's free now. It's like I don't have to have all the answers. I don't always have to be certainly right. And there's nothing wrong with, you know what? I have no clue about that, but I'll do my best to figure it out. So um, again, I'm not sure why I'm teaching but I'm learning that hopefully this will give me an opportunity to share with you, Crash, and your friends in our class and the other students just simple life lessons is that life is going to be life, but who you are is you can walk this journey, but have a great appreciation for yourself.
Yeah,
God didn't put you on this planet to be somebody else. He put you here to be you. And that's what I want you guys to get.
I think that's just a really great life lesson for anyone, no matter like what your kind of life path or what your career looks like. So,
Absolutely.
and then before I kind of move on to kind of your post college life, I do want to ask, do you have any favorite memories from your time at USC that did not involve basketball?
Wow. Oh, yeah, but I'll give you the clean version. My freshman year, I had the best time. Had no idea what it was till I got on it, but I love frat row. Woo-hoo! I mean, you talking about the parties and that was fun and it was after hours. You got to understand, like I said, I was a country mouse. I was in the house by 9 o'clock, asleep by 9:30 in Riverside, California. Now I'm in LA on frat row, and there's nothing but bodies after bodies. Yeah, it was a lot of overload, but I enjoyed being a student athlete.
I was always just curious because I always like to, learn about what, college athletes do kind of, when they're not on the court or on the field. So it's always definitely to always ask that
I
question.
loved it. I love the fraternity and sorority parties and hanging out and seeing the different aspects, seeing different students and lives and walks and journeys and other people, just their how people were different than me and thought differently and dressed differently and talked differently. I found that fascinating.
Gotcha. And then now I want to ask you about kind of your coaching and, executive career. So like kind of
Mhm.
what got you kind of drew you into coaching and what was like, coaching at like just kind of all four of your stops, like USC, Phoenix, Langston, then lastly Cal State LA.
Well, I'll break it up into college coaching. Um, I enjoyed the teaching, obviously the competition, the games, the growth of the players. Loved and enjoyed that. Hated recruiting. That just the thought that you had to almost beg to get these kids to come to the school and everything else was beyond me. So I can't even imagine how it is today with recruiting players. But so college was fun. Um, but I enjoyed coaching in the WNBA, especially, in the inaugural season. And being in Phoenix, great fans. We averaged 14,000 our first 3 years. Incredible fans. And it was an opportunity to coach pros. I was coaching, players my age, who had a great understanding of basketball and building a professional league that for many years for women had eluded them. And, you know, David Stern did a great thing. He put his money where his mouth was, and here we are today.
Mhm. And then obviously kind of what was it like? I mean, obviously after, you sort of more was you did get back into coaching later in your life with both Langston, Cal State LA. How is it kind of different, obviously, going back into the college game, even though if it wasn't, at like, where USC was and maybe not
It's it's
as intense.
it's still different. It's the players are different because the game is different in the sense that the exposure is different, and with that, there are more colleges that have tremendous programs where you have to fight for those players now, and players are knowledgeable. And with social media now, you have to be on top of your game when it comes to recruiting. And it is around the clock type of job. And I'm happy to say that's an aspect that I would never take on again at all. So I applaud, the coaches today and Coach Gottlieb and what she's done and from scratch, building the program to where it is takes a lot of hard work, dedication, determination, and patience, and she has all that rolled up in one.
Yeah, it's definitely like I've seen, especially because she was hired like shortly before I got into USC, so I've like kind of seen it sort of from like that
There
day
were some
one.
dog days there, Crash. Before you got there, there were
Uh,
some dog
I'll,
days. But
I'll
man,
believe.
I'm so happy.
I've heard the stories.
I'm so happy for her. So.
Absolutely. And then I do want to talk to you about kind of your, TV, your career in, broadcasting and reporting. So kind of what was like, what got you into that? And then one thing I noticed in Women of Troy was just, especially as you're NBA interviewing a lot of, NBA guys, like the level of
Mhm.
the amount of respect they had for you. So just what was
Yeah.
that like too? Just seeing them just, just respect you.
It was, I came around in a great time as far as broadcasting was concerned. I think the one person who did a lot of the heavy lifting as far as, female commentary was Ann Myers Drysdale. So she kind of forged that path out and for me and for others and everyone after me. So certainly it helped when you're receiving the Naismith Award next to Michael Jordan. So Michael knows you. Michael knows you got game. Patrick Ewing and all these guys, we all watched each other, in college. So it was an easier transition for me because of what I was able to accomplish. And the players knew that if I asked the question, I already knew the answer to. I just wanted to see if you're going to be legit and answer the question. So, I could call guys out and they would laugh about it. They would laugh about it all the time. I mean, I remember one time it was an all-star game and I'm sitting next to Shaq and I asked him a question and he wasn't paying attention. And so he's watching the game. And I said, "You didn't hear a word I said." He goes, "What?" And I hit him with the microphone. And he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Cheryl." And everybody was laughing like, only you could do something like that. And that, that's what I enjoyed the most about broadcasting, especially the NBA, was not only being on the sidelines and the interviewing the players and watching them grow, come in as rookies and then seeing them ascend to being one of the signature players in the league. And come on, Crash, how lucky am I to sit up there and call the games and be the sideline reporter when my brother Reggie is battling the Knicks or Michael Jordan and being booed. I'm like, look, what I'm part of the media and taking getting the flack because of him and he's torching people. So I had the best of both worlds when it came to that. Not only covering the NBA, but it gave me an opportunity to watch Reggie um, at his finest and to see him emerge as Reggie Miller, not Cheryl Miller's little brother, Reggie Miller.
What was it like getting to cover those games? I mean, beyond just, seeing him, kind of step out and be like, a star in his own right.
I always knew he was going to be a great player. I always knew. The one thing I didn't predict. I didn't think he would have a 19-year same team with the NBA team. I never saw that. I didn't see the longevity. I knew he could get to that level. I didn't know how long he'd be able to sustain it. And not only sustain it, but to carve out a name for himself and for a franchise and to basically put Indiana on the map was huge, and to watch him not only become a great player, but to reach, stardom, to be a superstar, to be one of the 50 greatest of all time on that list. Are you kidding me? That's my brother. Yeah, that's my baby brother. So that was a tremendous treat to watch.
And then, do you have a favorite athlete you ever got to interview?
Favorite athlete? No. Favorite athlete? Dr. J. I love all the there's only been one difficult interview I've ever had in my life with an athlete, and that was Reggie, because he's a bonehead. That's my brother, Moody. But he was the only one that gave me where I had to work for the interview, to work, to get anything of content from him. But the favorite, Jack Nicholson, loved him. Denzel Washington, big basketball fan, like knows the game, knows the game. But yeah, I love the celebrities. I love the celebrities.
Yeah, definitely. It's always cool seeing them. I'm going to ask you about that kind of in this next part of this final, I guess, segment of the interview is kind of what's it been like, being back at USC women's basketball games, like getting to be courtside every game.
Uh, First year, a lot of fun. This year, expensive. Yeah, it is expensive, but um, it's been great because Crash has given me the opportunity. I'm sitting with, my former roommate in college. I've got players to my left and to my right that I coached and played alongside of. Every game, it's like a reunion. Um, and it's been neat to just stand back and watch, Coach G and her staff and watch the players grow. And I'm curious moving forward because coming into the season, Crash, I was concerned for one big reason. Well, two big reasons, but it was under one reason was leadership. You lose Caitlin Davis and Mackenzie Forbes, the two graduate seniors, who were the leaders on that last year's team. They were the ones that kept that team, their heads in the right place, their emotions on point. Um, Goal focused. So coming into the season, I wanted to see who was going to emerge as that, and I'm still looking, and I think it changes game by game, but it's been fun to watch the growth from the beginning to where they're at. I'll be curious to see what the second half, the real second half, looks like.
And then kind of continue on that, looking at USC's both remaining schedule this year and then as well as, the years to come. What do you think is like the key for this program to have sustained success in as Big Ten members?
Well, let's tighten this down. Let's say moving forward for conference final, the first Big Ten conference final, playoffs, they've got to come with it. I mean, you've got to be locked in, dialed in. You're talking about honed into the scouting report, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and making sure that everyone's on the same page, from top to bottom, from number one down to number 15, and next to the water cooler, whomever it is, we got to be on the same page. Um, can we can we hit the right buttons and stay connected and healthy and get a little luck? If we can get those three things, you know, we have a great chance to get into the Final Four. We have a great chance to get into the Final Four. And then after that, it's roll out the dice. Right now, it's anybody's championship. It's anybody's championship right now.
Gotcha. And then going back to the being back at games, like I want to talk a bit about the UCLA game last week because that was just an incredible atmosphere. That
That
might
was
that
crazy.
might be the highlight of my time in college. Like
Wasn't that awesome?
I know, especially I mean, like especially getting to be fortunate to be courtside for that one, and then obviously you're there with your teammates, and
Yeah,
then obviously celebrities. You have Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jaden Daniels, Kevin Hart,
that was
Vanessa and
awesome.
Natalia Bryant, so many more. That's just like
Right.
it's just like you wouldn't have thought about this a few years ago, but it's just like it's incredible to
Not at
just see this
all.
environment. So what was that like for you?
It was incredible. UCLA and Coach Corey Close has done such a great job over there in Westwood and what she's built as well. So, kudos to her and her continued success. But man, after that game, I felt like I had just like gone through a workout. Like we were up and standing in defensive stands. We were calling out plays. Hey, make sure switch. She got you all alone. You're all alone. Isolate. I mean, we were talking the whole time, but it was so neat to see these kids just stay even killed, the ebb and flow of the game, not allowing themselves to get too high, too low, but just stay even killed and methodically, step by step, win that game. Um, I was so proud of him. I was proud for the program. I was proud because I had bragging rights because we won that first round. And I was giving a shout out to Reggie. Ding, ding, baby. Ding, ding. We got that uppercut in on that first one. But March 1st, we got to go back into Westwood and see what we can do.
I'm going to that one. I'm rallying a few friends, so definitely, got to show up for that one. It's gonna
Absolutely.
be such a great
I'll
game.
see you there. I will see you
All
there.
right, I'll see you there. And then I do kind of want to ask you about just women's basketball in general, both at the collegiate and WNBA level. What do you think they need to do, just women's basketball in general, to just continue to have sustained growth, grow the audience, and just gain new fans while continue to put a good product on the court?
Well, the women, the players are obviously they're doing a great job of not only with the social media and controlling and dictating their narrative, which I think is fantastic, and having a voice and finding their voices. Um, but their dedication off the court, the maintenance, the daily maintenance of maintaining their body, when to sleep, what to eat, when to rest, when to push yourself, having, if you can afford it, trainers, year round to keep your body where it needs to be so you have longevity in the sport. But, as women from a business standpoint, my hope is that we continue to embrace and uplift, whether it's unrivaled or another women's league upshot that's around the corner, which is another professional women's basketball team that I'm a part of. So the great thing is if we can continue open arms and celebrate and not become territorial, where the NBA, the WNBA, this is the Dubs property, this is unrivaled, this is upshot, this is so and so. If we could sit up there and celebrate and understand, ladies, there's enough seats at the table that's the way we're going to end up benefiting, all of us benefiting, as well as the sports in general.
Gotcha. I really enjoyed how you just kind of just kind of zoomed back and really just kind of looked at how like the whole ecosystem has to work together
It
to
does. It
improve.
does. And you know that. You know that.
Mhm. Yeah, and then I want to ask you, what has it been like for you to, teach this class? Because obviously, I'm going to tell you, like, I'm really been enjoying these like first 6 weeks. I think it's been. I've really been enjoying it, Cheryl. I think you're a great
I
teacher.
appreciate it. I don't know about great. I enjoy listening to you guys and watching the wonderment when you guys ask questions or when you're describing something in class or when we're watching a documentary and getting your feedback is very enlightening. Um, and so I'm looking forward, Hounds, I'm looking forward to watching what you guys develop and seeing your end product because you guys are so incredibly um, talented and intelligent, you know. So that's been fascinating. Hey, that's enough. Settle down. That's been the wonderful part, and I'm just very blessed to be around school. I mean, you guys are really, really, hey, enough of that. You guys are very talented. So the sky is the limit as far as I'm concerned, where you guys' future is concerned. Out you go. 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 Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Okay. And then one thing I really admire about you, Cheryl, is just you're so unapologetically you. And so And it's something I like. It's been evident ever since I think I met you. It's really evident, with women at Troy, especially when you just punt the basketball after you win your first natty, and then just kind of I just was curious, like, kind of where'd you kind of gain that confidence and swagger, just kind of just be your
Hey,
authentic self, just all the time. Like you
hey,
embody it more than anyone else I've ever met.
hey, when I tell you it's been a journey to finally get comfortable in my skin. I mean that, young man. I mean that. And it doesn't happen overnight. And if anybody says, yeah, I've always been, no, that's taking you time, you know. But for me, it's like I'm just in such a great place now where what you see is what you get. If you ask me a question, I'll give you my best reply. Um, but I'm not the one. I'm not like that old timer that the game we used to play the game this way and this way. And I remember when I refuse to be that. I can't be that because the minute I started laughing at myself, like, are you kidding me, kid? Are you kidding me? So like I have more fun taking the piss out of myself than anything else. I just think I'm incredibly goofy and funny and all the above.
I'll agree to all that. All right, I got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll wrap this
Sure,
up. So,
sure.
what's the best advice you've ever gotten,
Yeah. Best advice, within the last 5 years.
or just anytime, like anytime, at any
You know
point in your
what?
life?
Best advice someone ever gave me was find a quiet place, and it doesn't have to be a space. It could just be somewhere where your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, girlfriend, squirrel, cat, dog, whatever, is not here. Whether that's through meditation, walking, reading, there's got to be a time where you can shut it down, where you can decompress and just exhale, exhale. And the second best piece of advice had to be it's so easy to always remember things when you tell the truth. The truth is easy to remember.
Absolutely. And then my final question for you is, what's the best advice you have to anyone who aspires to, like play basketball? Like they see Cheryl Miller, they're like, I want to be like her. What's the best advice you got for them?
If you want to be like, if it's so, okay, listen, if you want to be just like me, just do the opposite. Do the opposite of me. Do the opposite of me. Like I said, Crash, God didn't put anybody on this planet to be anything other than themselves. That's the best piece of advice. Be your authentic self and give yourself grace along the way.
Gotcha. Cheryl Miller, thank you so much for joining me today on Behind the Caution Tape. I absolutely enjoyed getting to hear your story, get to learn more about you. It's been an honor, and just like I think this is my just no disrespect to anyone I've interviewed before, but this has been the coolest interview I've ever done.
Young man, I got nothing but mad love for you. Thank you so much. It's
All
been
right.
my pleasure.
Thank you so much to Cheryl Miller. Make sure to follow her on Instagram at cmill31. Make sure to follow me at CrashLit. Check out my website, crashlit.com. Cheryl, I will see you Sunday against Illinois.
All right,
All
fight
right.
on.
Fight on. Let's get the dub on Sunday.
Gotta get the
All
dub.
right. All right. Thank you again to Cheryl Miller. I'll see you all soon. Fight on.
Fight on.